Hey everyone, welcome to another Modern Deck Tech. Today we're looking at Temur Dreadhorde, yet another Delver variant. I've been having a lot of fun with this version of Temur Dreadhorde actually. It's been a while since I've tried something a little more different than usual. So let's jump right into the core. So the usual two suspects that you see here in the core, Delver of Secrets of course, and of course Tarmogoyf. So we're playing 4 of each. It wouldn't be any different. It wouldn't be Temur Dreadhorde without these two cards. Without these two creatures, I should say, in the deck. So, nothing really different here. What is different, though, is Dreadhorde Arcanist. We're playing 4 of in this version. So Dreadhorde Arcanist actually has seen a lot more play in Legacy Temur Delver. And up until, let's say, a month or so ago, the Temur Delver decks, or Delver decks in general in Modern, weren't really sporting Dreadhorde Arcanist. Just no reason for it. The meta didn't really call for it. Our Hooting Mandrill's setup was doing a lot better, or Storming Entity, or other variants of Temur Delver. But recently, Dreadhorde Arcanist, and sad to say I wasn't the first one to try this out, Dreadhorde Arcanist started making itself into lists, making its way into lists, I should say, and I, of course, had to give it a shot. I did try Dreadhorde Arcanist in my Lurrus Countercat deck, a deck that I put out a couple of weeks ago, and it did pretty well there. And of course it's done really well in this list as well. So I'm only playing 3 creatures in this deck, so 12 threats total, which is, about 2 threats less, or 2 to 4 threats less than usual. But, it's working pretty well. I've been having a lot of fun with Dreadhorde Arcanist. Of course, let's just read it really quickly for those of you that don't know. It's a 1/3 trample for 1 colorless and a red. And whenever Dreadhorde Arcanist attacks, you may cast a target instant or sorcery card with converted mana cost less than or equal to the Dreadhorde Arcanist power from your graveyard without paying its mana cost. If that card would be put into graveyard, it gets exiled instead. So it's kind of like a Snapcaster-like effect. Of course, most of the time, I'd say 99% of the time, you're targeting a spell that's 1 CMC. That's just how it is. You're not using anything really to pump Dreadhorde Arcanist, but there are some exceptions. We're going to get to those buts in a couple of minutes. But before we get there, let's move on to the cantrips. So your typical suspects here. Of course, we're playing all 1 CMC cantrips for obvious reasons, because Dreadhorde Arcanist works just as well with a cantrip if you have no other good targets in your graveyard. So 4 Serum Visions, 4 Sleight of Hands, and 3 Ops. It's just how I like it. I do like Sleight of Hand over Opt, so which is why I'm playing 1 more Sleight of Hand, 1 less Opt. Up to you how you want to split it, but all of these cards would work really well. You're digging for your threats. Like I said, you're playing slightly less threats than usual, so you want to be able to dig for them as often as possible. Removal. So 4 Lightning Bolt and 2 Tarfires. Tarfire is my thing. I wouldn't say it's my signature, but I do enjoy playing Tarfire as often as I can in my Temur builds, and I'm playing 4 Lightning Bolts. So just one of the strongest plays you could play in Temur Dreaddelver is, Bolt, attack with Dreadhorde Arcanist, Bolt. You're doing 6 damage in 1 turn, plus whatever other creatures you're attacking with, and that's just a lot of damage. It feels really good. Trust me, it feels really great when you do it. And if Dreadhorde Arcanist survives to do it again next turn, it's probably game over. So Lightning Bolt works really well with Dreadhorde Arcanist, and worst case, so does Tarfire. It's your typical removal, sweet. Now, people that most Temur Delver pilots don't play Tarfire. They're probably playing Flame Slash in its place, and I think Flame Slash is probably a good choice as well over Tarfire, but I just personally like Tarfire. The fact that it's a tribal instant helps grow my Tarmogoyfs a bit more, is, at least for me, is important, but, Flame Slash does deal 4 damage at sorcery speed, which is also very powerful in the current meta. So let's move on to the permission. Playing 4 Mana Leaks, so I'm upping my Mana Leak count here to 4. Usually I'm playing 3. I just had the space and I wanted to play more Mana Leaks. Mana Leak is one of the better counter spells in Modern, so I think 4 works really well. I've been happy with it. I wouldn't go back down to 3 for at least this deck. Force of Negation, 4 of. Nothing special there. What I am doing as well here is I'm playing 2 Disrupting Shoals. So yeah, a slightly more pitch-heavy deck. I think is pretty well suited to the types of the types of decks that we're seeing right now. So I like Disrupting Shoal here. We could, in theory, counter anything up to 3 CMC. And what's good about Disrupting Shoal over Force of Negation is, A, you can do it on your turn, And B, I mean, you could pitch a spell to it on your turn as opposed to on your opponent's turn. And B, you could target any spell as opposed to Force of Negation, which just counters non-creature spells. So that's why I like Disrupting Shoal. I don't think we need to play more of, because Disrupting Shoal has a different type of pitch requirement. Here, you know, for Force of Negation, you just have to pitch a blue card. For Disrupting Shoal, you need to pitch a blue card, and, you know, the CMC of that blue card is the CMC you can target for the spell that you're trying to counter. So if you want to counter a 1 CMC spell, you need to pitch a 1 CMC blue card to Disrupting Shoal. So it's a bit more limiting in that sense. So I think 2 of is perfectly fine. If you really want to play more Disrupting Shoals, you can, but you have to make sure you sculpt the rest of your deck accordingly. So the pump. Yeah, we get to the pump. Not the first time I'm showing Snakeskin Veil in a Temur deck, I don't think. I believe I played it in Terramander Delver as well. But, you know, I'm playing 2 of here. I do like Snakeskin Veil in the sense that it basically acts as a semi-Stubborn Denial or a semi-Veil of Summer in the main. Now, if you notice something in the Permission Suite, I'm not playing Stubborn Denial, and I normally am. The reason I'm not playing Stubborn Denial, I should have mentioned that in the Permission section of this video, is, well, I'm not playing Hooting Mandrills. So the only real enabler for Ferocious on Stubborn Denial is Tarmogoyf. That's not enough. In my opinion, if you want to play Stubborn Denial, you need at least 8 enablers just to make it work properly and make it work often. So Stubborn Denial is out in this instance. That's why I'm playing more Mana Leaks and so on. And I'm also playing 2 Snakes and Veils, because oftentimes when you're playing Stubborn Denial, it's most likely to protect your own creature. So Snakes and Veil in this instance helps you by giving your creature hexproof, and it pumps it up permanently by placing a +1/+1 counter on it, which is always cool. I've played with plenty of 4/3 Delvers of Secrets, which is great. Or just pumping up your Dreadhorde Arcanist or your Tarmogoyf works as well. I'm also playing 2 Become Immense. I wish I could say this was originally my idea, but it wasn't. But Become Immense is just... I love it. I really do love it. Some Delver pilots are playing just Hooting Mandrills in this place, so they're playing more threats. I really enjoyed Become Immense in this deck. It just ends games out of nowhere, and I'll tell you exactly why. So what you do is, main phase, you Become Immense your Dreadhorde Arcanist, and it goes to the graveyard. And then you attack, and Dreadhorde Arcanist's ability triggers. And because Dreadhorde Arcanist's power is now 7, you can target Become Immense, and you can pump your Dreadhorde Arcanist again, which has Trample, mind you. So your Dreadhorde Arcanist becomes a, I believe, 13/13, or 13/14, no, 13/15, it's a 1/3, oh boy, math. And you could swing in for 13 damage, which is hilarious, and it essentially ends games if your opponent is not ready for it, and I've done that plenty of times. Become Immense helps you end the game a couple of turns early, which can be very important, especially in a modern format that is slowly but surely speeding up. So, yeah, I really had fun with Become Immense. By the way, I mean, when you target Become Immense in the graveyard, you don't have to target Dreadhorde Arcanist again. You could target, I don't know, Delver of Secrets, or Insectile Aberration, I should say, and make that, you know, a 9/8 flyer, and, you know, just attacking with your Dreadhorde Arcanist and your Delver of Secrets, and end the game anyway. So multiple ways to abuse this card and have fun with it. I've really had fun with Become Immense. I'm sticking to it. If I'm playing Temur Dread Delver, I'm playing Become Immense in it. The lands are essentially a carbon copy of my previous Temur builds. Nothing special here. I'll just go through it in case you haven't seen any of them. If you haven't, you should. There's a playlist. I have a playlist, by the way. I might as well do a plug here. I have a playlist for all my videos. Every single video I ever put out is put into a very specific playlist, so you can watch other videos of the same type. Just FYI, check that out on my profile. Check that out on my channel. So here, 1 Breeding Pool, 2 Steam Vents, 1 Stomping Ground. Pretty standard for my shocks. Very standard for my fetches. 4, 4, and 2. And very standard for my basics here. I'm still playing 1 Force, so I can play Blood Moon in the side, and 2 Islands. By the way, Force is not just for Blood Moon. Sometimes it's nice to have the ability to go get a Force and not have to shock yourself to gain access to green. Plus, you know, more options for Field of Ruin and Ghost Quarter and Path to Exile targets. Alright, so the sideboard. Had a little bit more fun with the sideboard here. So I'm playing 2 Veil of Summer as opposed to 3. Mostly because I have Snakeskin Veil in the main, so again, most of the time you're playing Veil of Summer to protect your creatures, and in this case, Snakeskin Veil does part of that job. So I cut down. I'm also playing 1 Unravel the Ether, and 1 Declamor. So obviously for those Heliod decks, really not a fan of not permanently getting rid of artifacts or enchantments, but these are essentially necessary evils for now until we figure out something for the Heliod decks that works better. Blood Moon, 3 of. I'm still sporting 3 Blood Moons. I think they're required, and you might as well because Temur Delver works really well with Blood Moon. 2 Engineer Explosives, yes. I mean, you could target anything up to 3 CMC, which is important. Klothys, God of Destiny. Now, this is, I think, the first time I'm featuring a Delver deck with Klothys in the sideboard. I have to admit, I mean, I really want to play Huntmaster of the Fells as much as I can, and this is why I do have a 1-of here in this deck as well, in this sideboard. The Klothys God of Destiny really does pull its weight. I was very stubborn, and I stayed away from Klothys in the side in my Temur decks for a while, but I decided to stop being stubborn and start playing it, and it just feels really, really good. I think 2 of is perfect, is a good number. 3 would be a bit of overkill in my opinion, just because it is legendary, so drawing multiple kind of sucks, and it's indestructible, so it's not like it's being destroyed that often. But I think 2 of is fine as long as you complement it with something else. I'm playing 2 Surgical Extractions as well. This also works well with Dreadhorde Arcanist, which is why I'm playing Surgical Extraction over some other graveyard hate card. Yeah, you could Surgical Extract several times thanks to the Dreadhorde Arcanist effect. Sudden Shock, another hedge against the Heliod decks, so that's why that's there. And I'm playing 1 Huntmaster of the Fells to work in tandem with Klothys. I just really love Huntmaster of the Fells. I always have. I will always find ways to make it work in my decks. As you all know, for those of you that watch my videos often, the rolling average for games, the amount of rounds that it takes after Huntmaster hits the battlefield for me to win, I think is around 2. So, so once Huntmaster hits the battlefield, more or less I win 2 turns after. That's just how it works, and I have all the proof in match videos over the past year. So that's why I'm playing 1 Huntmaster here. Of course, you could change it for whatever you want. All right, last but not least, the matchup. So I don't think this deck necessarily plays worse or better than many of the other Temur Delver decks I've deck-teched in the past 6 months or so. But we'll go through each of these matchups anyway, and I'll give you specifics. So for combo decks, spell-based combo, the main concern or the main downside that I see is that I'm not playing Stubborn Denial at all in the 75, and Stubborn Denial really helped with spell-based combo decks just because it was an extra mana efficient counterspell for essentially the main combo pieces for those decks. So if we're taking Storm as an example here, Stubborn Denial became very handy because you needed it ideally early on by turn 3, and if you had a Tarmogoyf early on, you had Stubborn Denial up, that's all really important. Same for Hooting Mandrills as well, that would enable Stubborn Denial. None of that is in this deck, so I feel like spell-based combos probably hurt just a bit. You still have Disrupting Shoal, which kind of makes up for it a bit, because that's even more pitch spells that you have, pitch counter spells that you have, and you do still run 4 mana leaks, so that is relevant. So I don't think I've tanked my win percentages against spell-based combo, but it's there. Primetime decks, less of a concern. You're probably bringing in Blood Moon and a few other cards for those types of decks, but you just have to play around them, keep your mana leaks up when they're necessary, and race them. This is the best you're going to be able to do. Dreadhorde Arcanist does come in handy in this case, because if you could become immense Dreadhorde Arcanist turn 3, or turn 4, well, then you're probably going to win that game. So combo overall, I think, is pretty much still on par with other Temur variants. You're probably going to miss Stubborn Denial a bit. Aggro decks, we do pretty well against aggro decks here. Again, Dreadhorde Arcanist being a pretty key component, because if you need to use Lightning Bolt to take out creatures, Lightning Bolt, with Dreadhorde Arcanist really helps here. Main phase, Lightning Bolt the creature, that's, swinging with Dreadhorde Arcanist, take out another creature, you probably destroyed all your opponent's blockers, or most of them already, and, Dreadhorde Arcanist ideally survives. So, in that instance, your removal plus Dreadhorde Arcanist helps you with aggro decks, with some pseudo board wipes, or just racing your opponent to kill them faster than they can kill you. So I think the aggro matchup is equal to or maybe slightly better with this version or with this deck. I'm not really too concerned with aggro decks unless they have the nuts. They have a nuts opening hand. There's not too much you can do there, but you still have counter spells. You still have Disrupting Shoal. You still have Force of Negation, and you have quite a bit of it. So I think the aggro matchup is pretty good. Big mana decks, again, you're really going to miss your Stubborn Denial here. Stubborn Denial did a lot of work countering Karn and Ugin and what other planeswalkers they might throw at you. But you make up for it by being slightly faster thanks to Dreadhorde Arcanist. So, there are some give and take with this build. I think overall you're still fighting Tron as hard as you had to 5 years ago with this deck. It's always been a problem. You're always going to lean hard on Blood Moon and potentially other hate cards in the side. That's just how it's going to be. Not Magic, so Dredge decks, whatever it may be, other degenerate decks that aren't really trying to play Magic. Believe it or not, except for Dredge, Stubborn Denial really pulled its weight against other types of degenerate decks because they usually relied on a lot of non-creature spells to kind of lock you out. I didn't play too many, luckily, or else I'd be in a more pissy mood. But I would guess that those matchups become a bit harder. But again, they're not really in the main meta, so I don't think it's a major concern here. Control decks, yeah, I'm still pretty happy with my win percentages against control decks with this deck. Snakeskin Veil, believe it or not, does quite a bit. Even though you're only running 2, I want to play more, honestly, if I could. Probably could if I could find space for it by maybe dropping an Opt and playing a third Snakeskin Veil. But Snakeskin Veil is great for, blocking Path to Exile or whatever it may be, to protect your creatures, which is something that control decks often heavily rely on to get rid of your creatures, get rid of your threats. So that's really important. You're playing it in the main. You don't need, Stubborn Denial to have Ferocious enabled to protect your creatures, which is important, and you pump them up as well. So all that coming together pretty much helps you out. Playing extra mana leak and playing more pitch permission spells also really helps. And like I said, you can win the game slightly faster if you draw into Become Immense and you have Dreadhorde Arcanist on the battlefield. So I think overall control matchups is pretty much equal to other matchups. It's pretty good, probably 50-50. You could once you bring in more hate into the sideboard, your win percentages improve. So I'm pretty happy about that. Last but not least, mid-range, Jund, whatever it may be. Whatever variants you're seeing out there, Rakdos mid-range, whatever it is. Yeah, mid-range decks are always going to be decks that you're going to be grinding against. Sideboard, Colossus, Blood Moon, Huntmaster of the Fells. Those type of cards are going to really help you out in Games 2 and Game 3. Nothing really different there. And again, you're playing Dreadhorde Arcanist. I'm really leaning on that. This is Temur Dread Delver, of course. So being able to bolt your opponent multiple times in a turn, or using Become Immense to win out early is really going to be important. Sometimes you could even use Become Immense defensively to kill off some attacking creatures, which can be useful. So yeah, mid-range matchups definitely have not gotten worse. If anything, they've gotten slightly better. So yeah, I've been really enjoying Temur Dread Delver. I'm really enjoying Dreadhorde Arcanist in this build. I think it's probably going to be my new favorite variant of Temur Delver. Dare I say that. We'll see as I keep playing it more and more. And that's pretty much it for this deck tech. Stay tuned for the 3 matches that I, as usual, put up throughout the day today. Let me know what you think about this deck in the comment section down below. What do you think about Dreadhorde Arcanist and some of the other spell choices I've made? I'd love to hear from you. If you enjoyed the video, please give it a thumbs up. If you enjoy my content in general, please subscribe and hit the notification bell. Follow me on Twitter and Facebook. Share my content on social media. All of that stuff takes a few seconds for you, but for me, makes a huge difference. Really helps out the channel, and I really appreciate it for those of you that have already shared. Thank you. Thank you very much. If you want to go a bit further and support this channel monetarily through Patreon, check out the link in the description of this video as well. Set up Patreon rewards so you get rewarded at the end of every year for being a patron. Check out the tiers on Patreon to see what those rewards are. Thanks, and have a good one.